Hey guys, I'm Elizabeth Newsom and welcome to my booktube channel. Today I'm going to be reading some of my first stories that I wrote, so you're about to hear some really crappy writing today. So I was on my Instagram live video doing that giveaway. Some of you might not have heard about it because I primarily promoted it on Wattpad and Instagram, but someone asked me what was the first story I'd written. And one of the very first stories I remember writing was called, was about these evil babies who were trying to rule the world. And that's because they were trying to defeat this dentist. And when I was 5, I had this really bad experience with the dentist, which was my fault because I had 13 cavities and I have a huge sweet tooth and I had not done a good job of brushing my teeth. Like I said, really bad experience. I took this old document, man, I can't even, I think I might have been 10 when I started this. Woo, 10 years ago, man, I'm getting old. But as you can see, it's called Bad Babies, Mission to Take Over the World by Elizabeth Newsom. Chapter 1, Baby Army. Okay, this is... Jeremy had built his diaper, then seen a crazy commercial that was doing camps for babies, but how Jeremy saw it was totally different. So I remember when first starting this, I'd written a part, but then somehow it got deleted. So I'm just kind of summarizing that part where there's this commercial and they're doing this summer camp for babies. I don't know of anyone who does summer camps for babies, but we'll just go with it. And then if you'll notice, I have some issues with spacing here. Totally, nice spelling of totally, very creative. I've heard it takes a creative person to know how to spell things more than one way. So the dentist is, in the baby's head, he calls him King Boo Boo. King Boo Boo's assistant. Hello, we live on Kiwi Island. King Boo Boo doesn't like bad babies who rule the world. And King Boo Boo is loved by everyone in the world. Here is King Boo Boo now. King Boo Boo, colon. Hello, I am King Boo. I don't like bad babies who try to rule the world. So call our number, Boobie Baba. Thank you and have a nice day. So again, this is, Jeremy's a baby. So this is all from his perspective and how he hears people. And then more spacing issues as you can see. So Jeremy packs for camp and it says he packed apple juice, apple cinnamon graham crackers, his diaper, his linky stinky bug, his sneaky peeky suit, x-ray sunglasses, and a cutie wootie facial mask. So then she sends him off to camp. Another issue I had when I was younger was paragraphs. I did not know how to do paragraphs. I didn't know where to place them. So I just didn't use them at all. Ta-da! Yeah. Since then, I've learned about paragraph breaks. They're really great, and I've learned not to do paragraphs this long. Well, there's some paragraph breaks. Paragraph. There's some more paragraph breaks. Okay, so that's not bad. And this, they find kings who had kept this treasure and had been passed from one king to the next. So the name's recorded, the place they were is recorded, the king's name is recorded, and where the king lived, and where he had the treasure, and in what year. So there's just a list of those guys. But yeah, that's some of this story. Yeah, one of my earliest, and it's actually 6,000 words. I eventually worked on it later, and it takes an interesting twist. Man, my siblings are so great. Honestly, my siblings were my first audience and my first readers, so I would read some of this aloud to them. Anyway, it takes kind of a Star Wars turn where somewhere in this last chapter they're at the Jedi Temple, and I can't believe my siblings actually would listen to me read this to them, but I have pretty great siblings. So my next really old story is called A Glow Blob's Life. So Glow Blob was from this DS game I would play with my siblings. It says A Glow Blob's Life, and again, I'm still figuring out paragraph breaks at this point. But yeah, essentially it was about this DS game and these creatures. What was it called? It was like spore creatures or something. So it's like on this small planet called Pangu in the Spore Galaxy, there was a glow blob sporling. It had just recently been born, and then after a couple days, it knew all about most of its surroundings. He lived on an island that was very small, and there were other small islands that were all connected to his by shallow water. On one island there was a tree, and on that tree only 2 banana peppers that would grow at a time. There was a huge island only 100 feet away from the other islands. In that island you could smell lots of banana peppers, but it was guarded by huge rocks. So essentially I kind of just narrate what had happened in the DS game. It's really boring. I don't know why I thought that would be interesting, but you know, I was just having fun with it, so I guess everyone has to start somewhere. And then I kind of branched off into a lot of other stories. There's a Cinderella rewrite. I have this Star Wars fan fiction that I wrote, but I only wrote 4 or 5 chapters. I think you could still find them on fanfiction.net. There's a story about a fairy, and she's placed in a Lord of the Rings setting. And then there's, I remember, this is one of my early fantasy stories, but the world's called Ravika, and it's essentially people with different elemental-based powers, kind of like Avatar, honestly. And then I have a story about the Masada. The Masada was this Jewish fortress that was eventually taken over by the Romans. So we had to do a short story, and I wrote about this girl. And so what's notable about the Masada is that it was this mass suicide, because before the Romans broke into the fortress, and it was a crazy strong fortress, but the Romans are crazy persistent. And before they broke into this fortress, they killed all of themselves except for like 4 children and 2 women. So this is about one of the women who didn't kill herself, and she eventually becomes this slave to this Roman centurion. And at this point, my writing's like, it's better. Goodness. How old was I? Okay, 2014. So I turned 15 a few months before this. 5 years ago? It says, a brisk mountain breeze whisked through the stifling cave air, blowing Esther's curly brown locks. Her thick tresses had been unbound. She flicked another dark chocolate curl away from her face. The sky was azure blue and dotted with stacks of puffy clouds. So it's better here. There's description, but with that said, it's not the most interesting opening line. I do know how to use a semicolon, so there's at least that. Although it's not the best placed semicolon, but it's like grammatically correct. You can see the semicolon right there. For some reason I capitalized azure. I'm not really sure why. Not the best, but it's definitely an improvement. And then now, just for the heck of it, we could read something I wrote recently. How about let's just go ahead and do Captive and Crowned. That's my recently published book. And again, still not the best. I have a ton of areas of improvement, and 10 years from now, these new writings will be like my cringy rereadings. Like, wow, I can't believe I wrote and published that. But anyway, here is the first few lines from that. It says, the apprentice wished his meal dagger were a more formidable weapon. From this distance, he could have easily planted a throwing knife into King Alaric's chest from across the table, unseating him from his stolen throne. King. The word burrowed into the apprentice's mind with the ferocity of frothing acid. The man, if one could call a half-blooded dragon spawn such, wasn't worthy of the golden thread in his clothes. Even his late father, Vulcan, hadn't acknowledged Alaric as heir to the throne. Unfortunately, King Vulcan's disapproval had done nothing to change ancient Torvan laws. Alaric cleared his throat and stood, holding his green dragon-like wings on either side as if they were a source of pride rather than aberrations. Nobles of the council, today a half-human, half-Torvan queen has been selected. His voice echoed throughout the enormous council room. So, the story gets started pretty quickly there. I mean, the main part of the story is about this king marrying this girl, and there's this plot with this assassin who's trying to kill them. And I feel like I have some decent descriptions in there. One of my favorites is the ferocity of frothing acid. I just like that one. but it took a few rewrites for me to get to this point. Anyway, there you guys have some of my old cringy writing. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe because I post one bookish video a week, and I'd love to hear from you guys. In the comments, let me know what you thought of some of my writing and if my new writing's any better. I hope it is. And I'd love if you guys have any cringy old writing or lines that are just awful from your stories, feel free to share them. So let me know down below and I'll see you next time. Bye!